Good morning and welcome back to my office. My name is Allison Pelkes and I'm the Multi-Faith Coordinator for the Truett Center for Religious and Spiritual Life at Elon. It's my pleasure to put together this series, and all year we have been hearing stories about bridging to hope. I hope that in the future we will all be in person in the lovely sacred space of the Newman Lumen Pavilion, but for now we continue to share videos of our speakers from their own homes. This morning we will hear from Kristin Amrine. Kristin is a fourth-year student at Elon, studying elementary education with a minor in leadership studies. She is originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, but now claims Elon as her home after 4 years. Kristin is a leadership fellow, centering her research in educational justice, ranging from elementary schools to higher education. She also has served as the previous Leadership Fellows Director, co-director for the Intersect Conference, team lead and two-time orientation leader for new student programs, and a university tour guide. Kristin is passionately curious about sustainable change, loves long runs at sunrise, and is fueled by Oak House coffee. I've loved getting to know Kristin through her stories, and I hope you will too. Here she is now.
Being asked to speak today was not only an honor, but honestly, quite the excitement. Speaking at Newman Lumen has been an item on my ultimate Elon bucket list ever since my first year, so check. However, amidst the honor and excitement, I found that I had to reflect a while on how and where hope presents itself in my life. Hope is an odd thing. It arrives in the most unsuspecting moments and feels ripped from you in the moments you need it the most. It is the forgotten feeling, often pushed aside to make room for happiness, sadness, or fear. However, after thinking for a moment, I realized that hope is a foundational part of who I am. Let me share a story. When I was little, perhaps beginning at age 3, just as other 3-year-olds did, I started to form a bit of an attitude. I declared being done with my juice by throwing it across the room, and my biggest disappointment of the day would be no dessert, which often ended in quite the fit. However, at age 3, there was something drastically different about myself than others. After a couple minutes into the tantrum, I was able to sit myself down, take a breath, and declare that I was ready to be happy. Now, while I would love to take credit for being an extremely emotionally aware toddler, I owe it all to my parents. At this young age, they showed and expected me to give credit to my emotions, to truly feel them, and then decide what I was going to do with them. So you're sad or mad, but now what? This was the root of who I was. This phenomenon presented itself again when I reached 4th grade, the dreaded year of the projects. Once tears were shed after hours upon hours of trying to format a Word document to perfectly fit the length and width of the side of a cereal box, my mother addressed me and said, "Well, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to cry or just do it?" While a firm statement, and one that I'm positive sent me only into more tears at the time, I find that I still ask myself this very question. What are you going to do with the emotions you have? Will they hold you down or empower you to do great things? I remember March 12th, 2020, like no other. This Thursday was the end of the busiest 2 weeks of my whole life. In those 2 weeks, I taught my first unit for my 3rd graders. I planned and executed Leadership Fellows Weekend, had 2 projects, multiple tours, and interviews for our new orientation leaders. On March 13th, it was supposed to be the light at the end of my tunnel. On the 13th, I had a flight to Miami, Florida. On the 13th, I had an Airbnb with 10 of my closest friends. On the 13th, I had a mental and physical break from the weight of many roles and responsibilities I was holding. Instead, on March 13th, I had tears. I sat sobbing on the phone with my mom about how heartbroken I was, not only for myself and the loss of a break I needed, but for the safety and well-being of the world. But after that moment, a thought quickly followed. So now what? The skills my parents had guided me to build helped me to find direction in these moments. Instantly, my mind ran through just how much was going to change. At this time, I was the student director of the Isabella Cannon Leadership Fellows Program, a role that shaped much of my time as an Elon student and leader. Being only a little over 1 month into the role, I was instantly terrified around how I was supposed to be the one to lead our programs during a global pandemic. The weight of this responsibility is one that felt heavy, and again, at this moment, I had to ask myself what I was going to do with this new situation. For those who have led before, especially at Elon, you may agree that successful structures remain in place. Think of that age-old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. At that moment in time, our program wasn't broken, and therefore, very little fixing occurred. It would be unfair to say that our program remained stagnant as new leaders stepped in, implementing visions to propel us into growth. Yet, many of the things we did only because they had worked previously. Until, well, they didn't. Having 111 students in Belk 208 during COVID wouldn't work. Having our end of the year celebrations of our seniors wouldn't work. Gathering to play games, tie-dyeing t-shirts, traveling for winter term all wouldn't work. Before this all, I knew the position would be one that would be difficult, but with the supportive structures that just needed to be implemented for success, I knew I also would be successful. But on March 13th, 2020, I began to see these very structures fall away. I knew then that this position would be more than I had imagined it to be. And boy, this certainly wasn't on the job description. Now I really had to find out what my so what moment was. And this took time. It took creativity, and oh my, it took a lot of mistakes. Ideas came and failed, came again, and failed again. I really struggled to watch my peers as they muddled through additional academic requirements while holding the weight of being a student during this pandemic. I remember one moment in particular, one of our 2 virtual fellows forums, a monthly requirement as a leadership fellow. While many people initially joined the Zoom call slowly, the number of participants dropped until less than 1/2 of the program remained. At this moment, I felt hopeless in writing and delivering programs that would fully serve our students. I felt the same empty stomach feeling of hopelessness again this year in my first week of student teaching. This time, with far younger students to serve, I saw again as my virtual plans failed to engage and properly support those around me. How was I, a not even fully certified teacher, supposed to teach fractions while my students struggled with Wi-Fi connectivity, younger siblings yelling around them, or with the inability to hand them a chapter book to read? And believe it or not, virtual chapter books are extremely hard to come by. I would watch as my students would disappear after a boring math lesson or avoid completing assignments altogether after hours upon hours of staring at their screen. After 2 years of studying education in high school and another 4 here at Elon, I had never felt less prepared to teach students. I felt consumed with the responsibility of caring for and educating these students, with the forthcoming beginning teacher job just breathing down my back. In both of these moments, as swallowing as they felt, they were times, again, where I had to ask that difficult question. What was I going to do with what I have? And for both, the answer appeared so clear. Just try. I spent nights researching ways to engage 10-year-olds to 20-year-olds, which is actually surprisingly similar. I asked those around me what they wanted to see or to do. And then I just did it. And like I said, I failed, and I did it again. When I would find frustration in the lack of knowing the perfect recipe of how to live and lead during a global pandemic, I realized, well, no one does. I believe in those moments, hope was pivotal to making this all work. I had to choose to find hope in myself, to put faith in that it all would work out. But even after making the decision to choose hope, not all worries washed away. Such as the time I received an anonymous comment about saying that a fellows event was a worthless use of time, and that they had literally wished to be anywhere else, even in the quarantine hotel. I lost hope again as I evaluated student data demonstrating that the lessons I taught were ineffective. And those moments happen. We're all human. There are times with building hope in yourself simply just doesn't feel like enough. So now what? Well, you find it elsewhere. For me, this has always been in others. First, I look to Melanie Bullock Harris, one of the strongest women I've ever met. Her faith in my leadership lifted me on the most difficult days. She became my yes woman, supporting each idea, as crazy as each sounded. I looked to my family, comprised of my father, mother, and sister. They listened as I would unload the drama and the worries and helped me to find laughter and growth in the failure. I found mentorship in my cooperating teacher. While teaching her 31 fourth graders, she also oversaw 5th grade to fill one teacher vacancy. While balancing these 2 grade levels, she led the village project for our school and oversaw the entire 4th grade team. She became the educator I was always looking to become. Mentors are special in that way. They gift things like hope, perseverance, and truth. In those moments, I couldn't be more grateful for my own constellation of mentors. Now, I most certainly have almost nothing figured out, but in my advice to all, in time of loss of hope, ask yourself, so now what? How can I honor myself and my emotions while moving forward to create and to build magic? Lean into yourself. Lean into others. Find the things that spark joy and do it again and again. Trust and learn from failure. Let it knock you down. And then sit, thinking about why and how it happened. Then get up and do it again. I have to admit, being here, while virtual, still feels only right. Newman Lumen has been a home to me for a while. While you may never see me in the clubs, organizations, or events that run through this building, you may have seen me huddled up in this upstairs library for hours upon hours. This very room. It felt only right to record here. As a Carolina first floor resident in my first year at Elon, it was this space that made for the perfect late night study sessions, mid-class work breaks, or escapes from the roommate. It was in this building that I had my first job interview, had my first virtual lesson for my 4th graders, and had my first sip of dirty chai tea latte from Oak House, all moments that have changed my life forever. So here, now, it feels only right to give back to the building that has helped to build who I am. So I'm going to end this as I do all of my own personal reflections. I like to give thanks and gratitude to a feeling, a moment, or a person. Therefore, this one's dedicated to hope. Hope in a better tomorrow. Hope for growth in each failure. And hope in those to lift us up. Thank you.